I love how detailed you are.
I'm telling you, I am obsessed,
Things are laid out.
I am obsessed, really obsessed. So let's start with a nice softball question. This is an easy one.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite character in the MCU, and why is it Kate Bishop?
I was literally gonna say Kate Bishop, because she is so much fun. I love her in the comics. I think everybody does. She's so appealing. She's fun-loving. She speaks her mind. She's not afraid to do so, and she's funky and she's witty. She's smart. I mean, I can go on and on and on about all the traits that makes her so special, which is why I wanted to see somebody like her on screen. And what better way to bring her into the fold than to kind of connect her to Clint Barton, who is our skilled archer and Avenger in the MCU.
Absolutely. I have to know, I'm dying to know, how far back in your master plan of the MCU planning did you guys know, okay, we want to do a solo Hawkeye story? I know you've said it was originally a movie, but then we shifted to Disney Plus.
Right.
I mean, but how far back does this go? Is this pre-Infinity War? Is this after Avengers Age of Ultron? When did you know we're doing Hawkeye?
Well, at least for, I can't speak on Kevin's side, but I remember back in 2017 when we were filming Infinity War and Endgame is when Kevin and I were just sort of talking about like, well, what would be the next thing? And I'm going, wait, the next thing? I haven't even finished this this thing. But I, like I said, I read those comics, the Clint and Kate comics, and absolutely love them. And what I find so interesting is like we haven't had the chance to tell Clint Barton's story. So I gravitated towards that. So I can remember as far back as during that time, which was about 4 years ago that we started talking about that. I'm sure, even further back, it's always been in the back of some of our minds that we've got to find a time and space for Clint Barton one day. When is it going to be? Who knows at that time, right? But it just has to fit in to the direction we're heading towards. And then, this was the perfect time. This was almost like a magic in terms of how it unfolds and the years that we've spent building up to this moment for it to be set during this particular holiday season as well, too.
Yeah. So speaking of the holiday season, here's a little nerdy question, if you'll please indulge me, because I'm obsessed with the MCU timeline.
Okay.
Does Hawkeye take place in the winter of 2023 or a year later in 2024?
So it is a year later after Endgame. It's almost as if this is the first time that he's going to be able to spend time with his family since the blip back, and he's gotten his family, and he's trying to make a big deal out of this moment because he's lost so many years with them, which is why the family ties to the holiday is an important aspect of what makes this one different from everything else.
Plus, you had to make it make sense for how Rogers the Musical could be produced in a year's time. They needed more time than just immediately after the
blip. I love how detailed you are.
I'm telling you, I am obsessed.
Things are laid out.
I am obsessed, really obsessed. So here's another thing I want to talk about. Speaking of working on Endgame while you were doing that, Clint's activities as Ronin were very controversial. Is this something that you guys knew while making Endgame, we're going to come back to this later? Or did that happen after Endgame had wrapped and you guys were like, you know what? This is a great thing to include is what he was doing as Ronin, and we're going to address that.
Well, I also love Ronin. I love how Ronin is portrayed. And I think what a part of me was like, oh, we only get one scene in Endgame to really tell the Ronin story. So there was always a part of me was like, oh God, there's gotta be more. And how do we do that? It just so happens that this was the time and a lot in a way for Endgame, right? We had a lot of characters that we had to work into the storyline. And it was enough to get what we needed out of Clint Barton and what he's going through emotionally to get to what happens at the end of Endgame. But I still wanted to explore that. And as we were talking about, the Clint Barton story and his history, one of the biggest things was, well, we only dealt with just a moment in time for there. How do we bring sort of that past back to haunt him in a way especially now that he's becoming Hawkeye again? So
absolutely,
those conversations just continued, and this is the story that we have.
I'm a huge fan of the MCU. I'm a huge fan of the comics. So that's another thing I love about how that's incorporated into the show, because in the comic books, when Clint and Kate meet for the first time, one of them is dressed as Ronin and one of them says, "You're Hawkeye." And you guys do that. It's a little different, but it's there in the show, which I love. I thought that was great.
What we love is using those as inspiration and trying to fit it within the MCU. So sometimes there's that sort of that twist that is slightly different to a character or a moment in time, but we wanted to give it a little bit of a nod.
I would like to talk about Echo. I've only seen the first 2 episodes. I'm not going to say how much she is involved in the series or not. She looks insanely cool. Why was Hawkeye the perfect place to bring her into the MCU?
That is such a great question that I wish I can answer.
I get it. I get it. Okay.
We need to speak after you've seen the rest of the episodes, because I can't say much about how she is integrated into the story, but it will make sense to you. And she is so cool. She is absolutely amazing, and Alakwa just knocks it out of the park in terms of bringing her to life. So
I can't wait to see her series. I don't know if it's too early to tell. Are you also going to be producing her solo series?
I am not on that. It's another colleague of mine.
Well, you have your babies and you guys have to share them with everybody else who's working on the
We still talk with each other.
We still talk. Lastly, again, I know you probably can't say anything. I am such a comics fan. How soon or far away do you think we might see the Young Avengers, and do you see it as a film or as a Disney Plus series, the Young Avengers?
Yeah, you're asking all these questions I can't answer.
I'm so sorry. I know. I'm sorry. I know.
I always say that we have to get these characters right in the story first before anything can evolve. And I think one of the biggest thing is, let's make sure we get Kate Bishop in the right way. The pressure is obviously on because everybody adores Kate Bishop in the comics. And if she is not going to be correct on screen, then, all that hard work. So I think that is an important aspect of making sure that she fits into the story, into the MCU in the right way. And everybody is happy with that. And then we can kind of see what the future holds.
Thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate your patience in my questions, which you could not answer.
No, thank you. You are so enthusiastic. I love that.
Hey, I could keep talking to you, but that's my time. So have a fantastic rest of your day.
You
I really,
too.
really appreciate it. Thank you again.
Thank you.